You need to think old school and get a simple double A, triple A AM radio, or one of those hand crank self energized radios. One of those, so that when the power's out, you got. Also, then I have. And I've done this before. A couple of months ago, I was going through all the solar things that I have, and I have a bunch of backup batteries that'll do like four full charges on a cell phone, and I've shown them on a live thing before. Two of them that I have, my two favorite ones, actually have a solar panel on one side, so you can real time charge your phone, or when you're not charging your phone, you just leave it on your dashboard, and it just sits there filling up all day long. And then I've got some other solar panels and things like that can back up, double A or triple A batteries. But I'm obsessive about a couple things, and I would have to say that the formative experiences for me were seeing this town tear itself apart in '92 with the LA riots, and then spending a year in Bosnia and seeing how people in Sarajevo lived for 3 years without power and seeing what they did, and then going and rebuilding Baghdad in 2004 and 2005, seeing what it looks like the day after boom, the day after chaos happens. And we've seen it. I mean, you have no excuse in LA. If you were here for the Northridge earthquake or the LA riots or whatever, you know that chaos can strike at any time. And so keep in mind that if the inevitable earthquake around the 8.3, 8.5 range hits Los Angeles in the next 10, 20 years, several things will happen almost immediately. Power will be out virtually immediately, right? You know this. If it's daytime, good for you. You can see all the stuff you forgot to collect and put together in a kit. You can see it to grab it, right? Worst case, you're asleep, you're disoriented, it's 2 a.m., there's an earthquake, power goes out completely. What's the first thing you should do? Put a solar charger out at 2 a.m.? No. First thing you should do is fill up a bathtub, because that's potable water. Because I got news for you. The water pressure is going away really fast for two reasons. Because the pumps that create that pressure are spinning down, and then secondly, the water pipes, especially in the valley and in Midtown, et cetera, that Mulholland put down in the 1910s and 20s until he was fired, those were engineered to fail after he died. And you see them happening. We've seen this for the past 10 years in the valley. A fire truck disappears at an intersection, things like that. Eddie Van Halen is hosed out of his house because what was it, Coldwater or Laurel Canyon got flooded out, or Poly Pavilion gets flooded out. Those are all Mulholland's punchlines. And so you're damn right. And those are happening without an earthquake. So you're damn right, when an earthquake happens, those are gone. Water pressure will not be restored for months, if not a year, in Los Angeles. So first thing you do before you leave town is fill up your bathtub while you can, because, like I say, that's potable water. Now, of course, because it is pitch black, let's say it's a new moon, right, and there's no light out. Where are your AA batteries? Where are your flashlights? Where are your headlights? All those things, your camping lights. Are you going to fumble around looking for them? Now, here's the thing. You will still have a charge on your cell phone, and you can use your cell phone as a flashlight, but that is almost parasitic. That sucks your battery really, really fast. And so if you can find flashlights immediately, go ahead and do that. And you know what? I got news for you. If you can shoot a text out immediately to a contact, like if you have a relative in Denver, or whatever, what you should do is prearrange a signal for anything, earthquake, terrorist attack, or whatever. Prearrange a quick data signal. Like, hey, let's say you have a family of 5, and you just text, hey, Dad, we're 5 by 5. And then that relative is in charge of telling all your other friends and relatives that you're okay. Because you got to get that out immediately, and you can't write a novel because it's going to go to the back of the queue. The shortest text you can compose, send that, because if you don't do it within seconds or maybe a minute, the grid is the cell network is going to be overwhelmed if it's still up, and your text is never going to get out. So those are the two things in 2017. One of them, very old school, secure that water. And then thing two, send that message immediately. And if you haven't thought of this, I don't know, I understand. City of LA, County of LA, State of California should be pointing these kind of things out to you, but they don't because they work in the government. But somebody like me, I'm telling you, tomorrow on Sunday, shoot a call to your brother in Wisconsin or whomever and say, hey, I want to pre-coordinate this because there's not going to be any Facebook, there's not going to be any Instagram or any of that crap. If something happens in LA and we lose power or whatever, I'm going to shoot you this text as soon as I can. And if you receive it, maybe shoot back a confirmation. But I'm going to send you one 3-word sentence. We're all fine. Okay. And then from that, you need to go on Facebook and tell all of our relatives that we're fine. You got that text and the whole thing. You should coordinate that now because let me tell you, if you have the water and you have thought ahead and you have the food and the whole thing, lack of contact is with the outside world is going to be an issue for the first couple days. And I mean, I'm saying this because I know what's going on up in Northridge right now. There's people who've been out of power since about 4 p.m. and they're freaking out. You know, it's gridlock. No one's obeying traffic lights because there's no traffic lights on. So they're not treating every intersection like a 4-way, which is what you're supposed to do when power's out. But instead, people are barreling through intersections and the whole thing, like Godzilla's coming out of the ocean. And you're getting a little taste of it if you're seeing this from the periphery. So anyway, just think in those kind of terms. What I don't like is when our city government comes up with that absolute platitudinous, patronizing BS. 3 days, 3 ways. And they say you should be prepared for 3 days on your own in 3 ways. You know, water, electricity, and food or whatever. Complete hooey, complete balloon juice. You should be prepared for a month. You should be prepared to be out of contact with your relatives, work, and the rest of the United States for a month. Okay? And that way, if it's anything less than a month, you'll be pleasantly surprised. But when it gets to 3 weeks, and people who have not come up with a worst case scenario are knocking on your door for your junk, or Gavin Newsom is coming to your door for your guns, then if you've thought ahead, you're not going to be surprised. And if you have thought ahead, you'll throw the U.S. Constitution at Gavin Newsom, and you'll say, "Eat a bag of Richards, Gav." Because I'm on private property, and you and your martial law. Sorry, Jerry. Sorry, the governor died in the earthquake, and you're now the governor, but you don't have the authority to disarm me. So and that's, by the way, that's where I go. 5 minutes into this monologue, that's where I go. Is I get to defend myself. No more Superdomes, no more New Orleans. Gavin Newsom does not get to kick my door down and take my water and my lentils and my guard dogs and my 300 blackout or any of that. All right, well, let's get back to North Korea. Let's brighten things up. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. Let's get back to talking about nuclear apocalypse on the Korean Peninsula and what the United States did today with the South Korean and Japanese Air Force, a dress rehearsal for a preemptive strike, including a B-1 bomber. That and more right after this. The Dark Secret Place. Brian Suits in here live until midnight. KFIM 640, more stimulating talk. Michael Chapé with the news. Okay. Well, that didn't work. How about that? He run be the gov instead of that bum is Sack and that other bum who wants the job, a.k.a. Gavin Nuisance. Okay. I think some commas might be your friend. What do you mean a shout out? Here's my new haircut.
What was that?
Oh no, I'm talking to YouTube live.
Do you got any information of something bad happening?
I called my buddy in Blakely Harbor, the next harbor down from Eagle Harbor. He hasn't called back. There's an active shooter on Bainbridge Island, Washington. Wait, what was that? Hi, Brian. The podcast is borked. Loudest non-explosion ever heard was B1 at 500 AGL, Cobra Gold. I did a Cobra Gold in Thailand. Excuse me. Yeah, of course. Yeah, the guard will obey a governor. Unless he gives an illegal order, like disarm citizens. They tried that at the WTO in Seattle in 1990, and the Washington guard said "fuck off." I like the clean sides, by the way. And they did that in New Orleans with absolutely no legal authority or no declaration of martial law or whatever. They were going door to door and knocking on people's doors. And sorry, maybe in martial law you have no right to walk around brandishing a weapon, but you do have a right on private property to have your weapons. Yeah, Bainbridge Island's Kitsap County. Vashon is King County. Bean from K-Rock lives on Vashon. If I relocate to Seattle, I would probably move to Bainbridge Island because it's like the world's best school district. It's the best publicly funded school district in America. Why am I shouting you out, Matt Montgomery? Why should I give you a shout out? Tahoma? Real, you know what? And also, by the way, I'll take your Tahoma, and I'll raise you Woodinville. I'm here to tell you, like East Lake Sammamish and Woodinville, those are funded by Microsoft. Because there's so many developers at Microsoft with Asperger's, and they marry girls with Asperger's. I'm not making this up, because my brother-in-law is one of them. They marry girls with Asperger's, and they have Asperger's kids. So Microsoft funds a lot of special ed in the districts around Redmond. Not just Redmond, but Redmond, Woodinville, East Lake Sammamish. Will you share your 30-day shit hits a fan prepper list? Yeah, you know what I might do tomorrow is I might do a YouTube live on that. No, I don't play Madden. I play Roblox and Minecraft. Yeah, I saw a couple. Then I saw Jim Acosta from CNN described a fire in the middle of a street in Hamburg, and he said protesters light a fire. Super Hyperlocal Sunday is 8 p.m. Yeah, I did though. I did a bug out bag video with all my solar systems and all that. I'll do that tomorrow. But I know I did one a couple of months ago with my trauma kit, my first aid kit and things like that. I'm just not into them. I'm not into the NFL games. I am into Arma 3 and H1Z1. Oh, I know, yeah. Oh. Yep, amoxicillin. Yeah, alcohol stoves. That's the way to go. And also you go to a auto parts store and you buy HEAT, HEET, in those yellow bottles. That's denatured alcohol. But yeah, I love the denatured alcohol stoves. Those are the best. Because also they're silent, you know. Yeah, I'm betting that they're fucked. That they're gonna have to wait a week. That they don't have a transformers sitting around. No, we have a backup transmitter. KFI 640, more stimulating talk. It is the Dark Secret Place. Brian Suits in here live until midnight, and I'm on YouTube live at Dark Secret Place, and some people are asking various questions about KFI in the event of an emergency. Yeah, we have a backup generator. We also have a backup transmitter. So if something happens, catastrophic in LA or here in Burbank or whatever, we will be on the air one way or another. We'll be on the air with 50,000 watts, everybody. All of it dominating the West Coast at 640 amplitude modulation. Or we'll go to our backup transmitter down in La Mirada. Or is that where it is? Yeah, La Mirada. And we'll literally broadcast from there, directly from the transmitter. But one way or another, KFI has always stayed on the air through thick and thin weather, the riots, earthquakes, even old whiskey deuce, even old World War II, don't you know? So yeah, we'll be on. And this is what's so funny, is that all of your digital technology, including all of mine, that I rely on, about whether it's GPS stuff or whatever, you can throw all that crap out the window because the minute the towers are down, the minute the towers don't have power, or the towers have collapsed, or whatever, then you're back in the analog world, and hopefully that's the worst it gets, to be back in the analog world where you're fumbling for an AM radio, and you're going, "Da, da, da, I don't care about the Lakers, da, 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 I don't care about whatever, where's 640, and you're going to be on AM radio, and we're going to be transmitting, and because your cell phone's not going to work, and you're not going to have power, so your PC's not going to work. If you have a sat phone, hey, good for you, enjoy yourself, but honestly, unless you have one for work, not many people have a sat phone, unless you're fabulously rich, because they're kind of overkill in the world of cell phones. But anyway, and then of course there are people with ham radios, so UHF, VHF radios. So if you take the time to learn how to use those are a great use of your time, and you can pick up real cheap ones on Amazon. You can pick up the Baofeng UV5R in 5 or 8 watts, and there you go. Anyway, back to Dark Secret Place stuff. So here's the deal. The U.S., the day after the ICBM, the successful ICBM launch by the North Koreans, the United States and the South Koreans did a fire demonstration of our own. The South Koreans have a ballistic missile system, and they did a couple test launches of those. The U.S. Army has a thing called the ATACMS, the Army Tactical Missile System, that's fired out of a tracked vehicle, and called an MLRS. And so we fired some of those into the Yellow Sea, showing the North Koreans, look, we have missiles too. I don't know that it makes the point that we wanted to make. And clearly, the Pacific Command didn't think it made the point we wanted to make, because this came out of Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam in Hawaii, as part of the continuing demonstration of the ironclad U.S. commitment to our allies against the growing threat from North Korea's ballistic missile and nuclear programs. 2 U.S. Air Force B-1B Lancer bombers from Andersen Air Force Base, Guam, conducted a 10-hour sequenced bilateral mission with the South Korean and Japanese fighter jets on July 7th. The mission is in response to a series of increasingly escalatory actions by North Korea, including a launch of an ICBM on July 3rd. General Terence O'Shaughnessy, Pacific Air Force commander, said, quote, North Korea's actions are a threat to our allies, partners, and homeland. Let me be clear. If called upon, we are trained, equipped, and ready to unleash the full lethal capability of our allied air forces, said General Terence O'Shaughnessy. So what they did was 2 B-1Bs took off from Guam And then they were met and escorted by Japanese Air Self-Defense Force fighters, and as well as U.S. Air Force F-16s. And then South Korean F-15s escorted the B-1s. And the B-1s did a practice bomb run very close to the DMZ at the Pilsung Range, where they released what are called inert bombs, meaning non-explosive, dummy bombs, is what you would call them. In the military, they're called inert because they don't go boom; they just go poof. So this is the point that we're making to North Korea is the methods that we have to strike you when and where we want are many and varied. Some of them are on Guam, some of them are on Okinawa, etc. The North Koreans have made a point of singling out Okinawa, the American facilities in Japan, Osan Air Force Base in South Korea, as well as Guam, as being their intended targets of a nuclear strike. Because the North Koreans know they don't have to worry about the U.S. Army in Europe. They don't have to worry about the 2nd Armored Cavalry in Lithuania. They have to worry about the Americans in the neighborhood, meaning Guam, Okinawa, Yokosuka, Japan, Osan Air Force Base, and take those out. And if you do that, you effectively blunt the American ability to back up South Korea. So this is part of what's unfolding as a very rational plan on the part of the North Koreans. And that would be a rational, thought-out plan to use nuclear weapons to prevent America from reinforcing South Korea. And this is all gambling that the United States would be so burnt, so bloodied by this initial strike that we would not have the will here in the United States to come to South Korea's aid and just sit back and let the North Koreans occupy South Korea and take one of the top 10 economies on earth off the table. And that's a remarkable miscalculation on their part, but they live in a different world. They live in a world where the outside economy, the world's economy, doesn't really affect them. They don't really care that you or I or a Canadian or a Belgian or whoever would feel the ripples of the disappearance, the vaporizing of the South Korean economy. And, oh, by the way, several million people in South Korea and several thousand American troops. That is not in their thinking. That's in our thinking. So that's how that works. All right, we'll take a break. Be back right after this. It is the Dark Secret Place. Brian Suits in here live until midnight and live on YouTube. Back right after this. KFI AM 640. More stimulating talk. Michael Chapin with the news. All right, I'm back.
Close. That was the first night I held a flashlight for my dad, but it wouldn't be the last. At Dad's funeral, I realized that every time he handed me that flashlight, he was passing the torch. And my dad believed in Gettle air conditioners. So I bought the company, Gettle, Goettl. It'll keep you cool, but it's hard to spell. You can keep respond and do the always. No one knows air conditioning like Gettle. Goettl.
I don't know. Baghdad Dave, we might get him on soon. All right.
Southland weather from KFI. We're going to see lows tonight in the 60s. And
Really?
lower 70s.
You're in Hrvatska?
Not quite as hot tomorrow. Start of a cooling trend. Beach high is going to get into the 70s.
Stajima Hrvatska.
90 for the Illinois.
Ti ideš na posao.
The valleys in the IE. Highs there topping out tomorrow near 100. About 5.
I'm speaking Serbo-Croat.
Still sunny and warm all the way through mid next week.
All right, here's
7 in Hollywood, 71 in Irvine, 72 in Newport Beach, and 71 in
Dobro noć.
KFI's 24-hour newsroom. I'm Michael Citrin.
Here is,
Welcome to America Speaks by Zip, the polling app that lets
that
you
is the
think. Download the Zip app
engineer
today.
in there.
And a Minnesota man who is wanted on an outstanding warrant tried to avoid
Michael
arrest
Chappé is
using a
right there.
Jail-free Monopoly card.
There.
Should you be able to earn a get-out-of-jail-free card in real life?
You are looking around
70% of men and women
the
agree
studio.
that the idea of a real get-out-of-jail-free card.
I don't know. Who are you? You're on my YouTube live channel, Razzmatazz.
Multiple historical sex crimes in his native Australia. Is the church really serious about us being good people, or is it all about?
Do you really live on Eagle Harbor? There on the BI?
Unfortunately, even the church is manipulated.
You know, I'm from Port Angeles. I'm from PA originally. Apparently, it's a guy on a boat, and he's shooting at Bainbridge Island police. So, yes, I'm white. In fact, if Martians land and say, take us to your white guy, they're really going to come to me, actually. Yeah, there's two big fobs in Syria. There's one in the north and one in the south. And we have killed Iranians who have best military option for North Carolina. I'd say dig a moat around it. Yeah, so there's a guy on a boat. The big island to the west of Seattle is called Bainbridge Island. And there's a ferry. It's about a 40-minute ferry from the main town, Winslow, to Seattle. Excuse me. Who are you and why are you on my YouTube Live, Razzmatazz? KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk. Brian sits in here because it's a dark secret place live until midnight. Also, there is a active shooter situation at a place called Bainbridge Island, which is the island west of Seattle across the Hood Canal. Pardon me, not the Hood Canal, but the Puget Sound. And it's a big commuter suburb island. Really, really beautiful place. And the main harbor is called Eagle Harbor. It's where the Seattle to Bainbridge Island ferry lands. And there's a guy actually on a privately owned boat. He's firing his rifle from the boat at targets on the edge of the harbor. And so evidently authorities are going to approach him with an air unit, with a helicopter, and try to voice him and get him to stop or something. But this is a really weird active shooter situation where here's a guy in a harbor. You know, there's residential houses ringing. It's effectively a triangular harbor with the base, being the wide part that goes out into the water, and then it comes to a point, and there's houses on two legs of the pyramid, and of the triangle, I should say. And so he's able to threaten people in their homes right now. And so how do you approach the guy? You know, you can't sneak up on him. He's on a boat, except it is 11:30, 11:37. But the deal up there is that it didn't get dark until 10:30, 10:45. Not only is there still very residual light because it's so far north, I know from growing up there, but also it's an extremely full moon tonight. And it's clear up there. It's a beautiful day up there. And a clear blue sky with a full moon, and the sun just went down around 10 p.m. up there. So I have no idea what they're going to do with this guy. But I'm assuming they've told all the residents to stay indoors, but get a couple walls between them and this guy. And I'd say screw that and get in the car. Or, by the way, because I know Bainbridge Island really well, it's not going to surprise me if some people go to their closet and come out with something to shoot back at the guy. So, because, I mean, this is a clear and present threat. That's what I would do if I were police, is I would sink the boat. I would pull out, I'd call Seattle police and say, do you have anything like sort of on that, in the .50 caliber flavor? And we can sink the boat and just get the guy waterborne? I mean, that's an option in that case. But anyway. So, yeah, the North Korean options are narrowing, as they say. Denuclearization looks like it's a no-go. A source that I really enjoy, politically I'm way different than this guy, but Jeffrey Lewis is the director of the East Asia Non-Proliferation Program at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies up in Monterey. And he and that institute are probably the best non-governmental source for accurate analysis and intelligence coming out of North Korea. And he said in a column on the Daily Beast this week, he said, the window for denuclearization closed a long time ago, close quote. That it is time, he said, the threat can be managed, only by accepting the unacceptable as a hard fact of life. North Korea has achieved this through more than just missiles and bombs, by exploiting the dynamics of nuclear warfare and diplomacy. This otherwise weak country, whose economy is estimated to be smaller than that of Birmingham, Alabama, can dictate terms to the world's most powerful country. That, however, I disagree with them because you literally are giving into literal nuclear blackmail. That if you go ahead and accept what was unacceptable for 16 years. Remember, Bush called them part of the axis of evil. Obama said a nuclear North Korea was unacceptable. I really would like to know that he's looked that word up and that he knows that he's misusing it all the time. And now you do have an acknowledged nuclear North Korea that is stating publicly they're going to put their nuclear weapons on a missile. And then they're going to mass produce that missile system. And so at that point, do you seriously accept that? Because this is not a rational state by any of our measure. Within that country, it's very rational that they have a destiny. They have never forgotten that the war is not over. It's just taking a time out. We have forgotten this. And I think the North Koreans are good enough observers of the West, and America in particular, to know that in all likelihood, if you polled Americans on whether or not we should reestablish a draft in anticipation of having to liberate South Korea from North Korea or to defend South Korea, I would have to tell you in 2017, I believe that would be overwhelmingly no. That Americans would not return to conscription after skipping 2 or 3 generations, and then also even upping a military budget and committing more troops to South Korea, or if North Korea overran South Korea, would it be in the United States' interest to fight North Korea and take it back and then overthrow the regime? Without definition, without parsing that, I think a lot of people would say, well, yes, they're an old friend, an old ally, we should do that. But if they're given the facts, which would be, this, by the way, would be a war that would probably rival Vietnam in its casualties. And that's probably best case scenario. 58,000 casualties in a war perhaps less than 1 calendar year long, or maybe even shorter. If it extended beyond that does it, because it's not 1950 anymore. There's no Soviet Union backing North Korea. There would be no China backing North Korea, and that in all likelihood, if North Korea got kinetic with their nuclear weapons, China would be equally displeased as we would be, and probably would be involved physically on the ground as well. But it doesn't make it any easier of a war. And I think if you asked that question, if you said, knowing that most all experts estimate that there would be thousands of American casualties, is South Korea worth defending? I got to say, I think a lot of Americans would, I think a majority would say, nah. But it would be a significant blow to the world economy. So anyway, what I was saying is, I think that the North Koreans know this. I think that they have put their ear to the ground, and they sense that the United States, after 16 years in the war on terror, is a little over it, and that we are retracting from publicly. We have a president who's poo-pooing NATO, but then he turns around and he supports NATO, but then he talks about spending money to defend other countries when we could be spending that money to rebuild infrastructure in the U.S. And it sounds like a guy who's withdrawing from the rest of the world, and the North Koreans see that. So we're canceling out some of our own options. But the option to stop what might inevitably be North Korea using nuclear weapons to reunify the peninsula, like they have said since June of 1950, is their overarching goal. And only it's not till now that they have the ability to do that and keep it unified, though it would be absolutely devastated and it would look like North Korea. So the ability to stop that, I would say, inevitability exists now. If the other option is negotiating with the North Koreans, the North Koreans now have the keys to the kingdom. The North Koreans now would say, oh, well, now that we have nuclear missiles, now you're going to give us absolutely everything. Because we're going to blame you for a lack of development, you're going to make a worldwide development fund, and it's going to start at $1 trillion. The entire world has to pony up and face that you have retarded our development and our superiority. You haven't recognized it, and you're going to put into a fund for our own development $1 trillion. And if you don't, we just might nuke Japan. Is that really the world that you want to live in? Because there are people suggesting, like Jeffrey Lewis at the Middlebury Institute, that we have to accept the unacceptable. Which, at that point, by the way, I think he and Obama both have to look up what is unacceptable. You literally, if something's unacceptable, you can't accept it. And just simply saying that is Obama-esque. We'll be back right after this. The Chinese remind the people of Hong Kong, you're still Chinese, by the way, and oh, look at that aircraft carrier in your harbor. Isn't that subtle? That and more coming up. It's the Dark Secret Place one last time. KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk. Michael Chapé with the news. Right. Boy, the chat's really gone to hell, hasn't it? Yeah, big time full moon. How long will it last for? A war with North Korea, it's in their interest to achieve their goals in 72 hours or consolidate. So they would do what they did in June of 1950 and try to occupy the entire peninsula so that we couldn't reinforce. We would have to forcibly enter. China is... Part of the reason that China isn't doing anything is because they are watching how we react. They're waiting to see how we react. Now, if it looks like we're about to go kinetic, then the Chinese might step in. The worst time of year in Korea is the winter. You can ask the Marines about that. But yeah, the worst time of year in Korea to do anything is the winter. I've only been there in the summer. The winters are legendary, though. Yeah, B-1Bs are still very much a part of the bomber triad. You know, I got news for you. B-52s. You know, there's still, 101 B-52Hs. But a decapitation strike, it's a great scenario. It's a great what if. But the problem is unlike Saddam, Saddam didn't have a grandfather who was busy militarizing his country. Kim Jong-un's grandfather, after the Korean War, he kept North Korea on a war economy, and people are employed doing nothing but digging tunnels. They've been digging tunnels for decades, so they are very much prepared for the for the inevitable American attempt at decapitating the leadership or the nuclear capability. So so there you go. Well, the problem with that is that we don't know what bunkers to bust. We don't. They're not dummies. They know when they develop nukes, they're not going to put them in one place. Air unit guiding Marine units, and now apparently there are There are a lot of boats in the harbor. Is there a live shot of Eagle Harbor? Does anyone know? No, you suck, Adrian. You suck, donkey dicks. Ferry service has resumed, really?
In response to the attack at the Manchester Arena last month, we launched the We Love Manchester Emergency Fund with Manchester City Council.
No, we don't. We do not. The high tide of their tunnels were in the 70s and 80s, and the South Koreans were intercepting tunnels. But no, a live shot of Eagle Harbor on Bainbridge Island.
Debbie needed a plumber. The first one she called showed up late and pretended to fix her problem. But the problem returned a few days later. So she called the Snowgit plumbers at Mount Diamond.
That's when she met Edgar, who Debbie refers in her letter as both the best friend of her soul.
Debbie says Edgar is outstanding.
It's kind of the problem with the live chat is that we seem to be attracting a lot of complete douche canoes tonight. I would assume so. I would assume that an airburst 5,000 foot or 10,000 foot nuke, would do it, and they've thought that through. Really, a double like somebody's private sailboat? Holy shit! Kilo India 6 Kilo Oscar Bravo, is that you?
Call 1-800-446-MIKE. Contact the license number 299-170.
Ooh. Are they spotting the guy? Seattle TV doesn't go live with shit like this like LA would. We would have like 4 or 5 helicopters over this. Seattle doesn't do that. Well, the chance would be based on how many American forces are on the ground at Darwin. Darwin is, B-1s have flown out of Darwin last year. So as Darwin comes online as a strategic asset for the United States, then yeah, that would be a target. So that would be, I've got loads of folksy anecdotes about the 100th Infantry Battalion. But that would be the reason for the North Koreans to strike Australia, would be because of the battalion of Marines that are at Darwin, and then also the B-1s that have flown out of there. And because they hate kangaroos. It's no greater than any other time. It's a function of the media concentrating on, floods in Britain. Well, it turns out in the summer, after a hard winter, snow melts. So I just like an interesting conversation. Tell me the contact now. Suspect in the cabin. Was he shooting at houses, or what was he shooting at? That's incorrect. Seattle has the best coffee ever. It's just not grown there. Yes, actually. You'll have to decide what I answered yes to. We stayed in touch. Oh, I miss it. KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk. The Dark Secret Place. Brian suits in here one last time, and we will continue updating you as LADWP updates their outage map about when your power is going to come on. If you are there in the valley, around where the transformer blew and all that mineral oil was burning up and the whole thing, so you're slowly going to be getting power during the night. And as Eric Leonard said, he was there at the scene. People stuck in elevators. How much would that suck on any day, any other day, right? But this is the hottest day since 1886 or whatever it was. That today's high was higher than any time in history in LA. So you're stuck in an elevator on the hottest day. So, and that's, by the way, obviously that wouldn't be a coincidence. That's a predictable effect of the hottest day because everyone's cranking their air conditioning. Anywho, it's for many in Hong Kong. It was the 20th anniversary of the end of colonial rule by Britain. For the Chinese, it was the 20th anniversary of the People's Liberation Army operating in Hong Kong. Now, I told you this last week that as Xi Jinping swore in the equivalent of the governor of Hong Kong, who's effectively appointed by Beijing and confirmed by a hand-selected council of several thousand people. So it's effectively, it's you're not really voting for a mayor or whatever. But then again, they were not voting for the governor general either when the British were in charge. Well, anywho, when Xi Jinping swore in the new authority last week, he also admonished Hong Kong, and he said, hey, don't think you're independent. Don't think that you're going to march in the streets. Don't think you're going to break away from us. You are Chinese first. Before you're Hong Kong, before you're anything, you're Chinese first. And so he oversaw a huge parade of the People's Liberation Army, who have a gigantic barracks in the middle of Hong Kong, several thousand troops in this building that the British built in the late 70s. But they don't leave. They don't intermix with the people of Hong Kong. When they're off duty, they are not allowed to walk around. So they're kept at a distance. There's a emotional gap between them and the people of Hong Kong for obvious reasons. Because if you have to send them out in the streets, you have to be able to trust that they will pull the trigger if you have to say pull the trigger. Well, so anyway, that subtle message of a giant military parade was followed up by the Chinese Navy's aircraft carrier in Hong Kong Harbor, and it was a big hoo-ha. They told the people of Hong Kong that the Liaonong will be there for open tours. Come visit it. It's pretty mighty. You should be proud of being Chinese. But the message was not so subtle. The message was, oh, by the way, look out in the harbor. Oh, you saw that parade last weekend? Well, look what's in the harbor now. It's our aircraft carrier. But the Chinese are painting it up as a patriotic exercise for the people of Hong Kong to come check out their Navy's aircraft carrier. The ship's visit is part of efforts to raise the profile of China's military and inspire patriotism in the semi-autonomous city. Hong Kong has been the site of large street protests in recent years as calls for increased autonomy grow. Young people are increasingly likely to call themselves Hong Kongers instead of Chinese. Local officials say they want to change that, which you can pretty much take that to mean that they're pretty angry about that. According to Jean-Pierre Cabestan, a professor of government at Hong Kong Baptist University, he said there's two messages that the aircraft carrier brings along. Number one, quote, the first to Hong Kong society is to remember that you are Chinese and Hong Kong is part of China. Second message is to be proud of being Chinese because now we are a powerful force to be reckoned with on par with the United States. So anyway, that continues. This is really interesting that there's been a campaign of military influence over Hong Kong. Clearly the Chinese detect that there's something going on online and social media, etc. And then Vietnam is pissing off China because more and more now they're rubbing China's face in the fact that they're allowing American and British oil companies to drill in the South China Sea, that they're very close to doing joint military exercises with the U.S. Navy, former enemy, the U.S. Navy, and that this is all to make a point to the Chinese that the window is closed on being nice to us. You're building those Coral aircraft carriers out in the South China Sea, and you're going to regret it. All right, back tomorrow for Super Hyperlocal Sunday. We'll have a wrap up of what happened in the Valley today, and hopefully the power will be back on. Thanks to Miguel for coming in on short notice, Michael Chappé, and we'll see you back here tomorrow on KFI AM 640. More stimulating talk. Okay, boy, what I miss in the chat. Oh, hi, Annette. No, did the guy kill himself? Eh. All right, we'll see. I'll do a bug out bag tomorrow. Hi, Anna. Nice of you to come along. I'll do a live bug out bag and other stuff tomorrow. All right, I'm going to hit finish here. Time whenever I get around to it.